There's been a huge reaction to our interview with actress Amanda Abbington about her time on Strictly. At what point did you start raising concerns?
Week 1, 3rd day. I've got texts to the producer on day 3 going, this is awful, he hates me, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm trying my best, I promise you. So that was the first week. Literally said, I'm not sure this is appropriate behaviour, can we address it? That's all I did. And the onslaught that I've had for 8 months, relentless.
Well, our first guest today is former Strictly professional Camilla Sacre-Dallerup, who won the series in 2008 when she was partnered with the actor Tom Chambers. And she joins us now live from her home in California. Good morning, Camilla. Lovely to see you. Even seeing that photograph with you and Tom brings it back for me, because that was the year I did Strictly and you lifted the glitter ball in all of its glory. Sadly, Camilla, we know it doesn't appear to have been a wonderful experience for all of the celebrities. I certainly did have a wonderful time. You were there. We had fun. It was tough work and it was intense, but there was a lot of fun and laughter. I mean, what are your thoughts on the recent headlines from a pro dancer perspective?
Well, I feel incredibly, first of all, shocked and surprised, and I feel sad because for me too, it was such a magical chapter of my life, and I believe for the celebrities that I guided through the journey too. I mean, just seeing you here today, I'm like, are we off to a group rehearsal? You know, we have such fun memories of the show, so that's deeply upsetting, obviously.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, it's interesting because everyone has the different versions of events, we know that. But I'm intrigued from your perspective as the pro. How did you approach the training regime? Obviously, you get a celebrity with goodness knows what level their ability is. How did you approach the weeks ahead?
I think what became really important to me, right from, I think, season 2 even, was to always sit down and have a really big conversation with my celebrity partners, understand what they wanted from the journey. Was it just a little bit of fun? Was it going to change their career altogether? Did they want to make the semi-final or the final? Or they didn't care, perhaps. They just wanted to enjoy. Because the training schedule was going to look quite different, whether they were just having a little bit of fun or actually wanting to make the final. You have to really manage everybody's expectations. So if my partner said to me, I want to make the semi-final, I want to be in that final, I had to say, okay, how much time can you give me? And then I would create the schedule from then on. It's all about managing expectations, and I think that's something that it's really important that people know what they're walking into, because it is, like you said, it's hard work, but it's also a lot of fun.
So do you think maybe it has just become too competitive? Like we keep mentioning the word fun when we did it, but the competitiveness has maybe kicked in too much, because it's interesting, week 1 in series 1 there was 110, and last series there were 69 tens dished out. So do you think that puts more pressure on everybody?
I think that the audience's expectations has built through the years. And so I was just discussing this earlier today with my husband. I think what has happened is that as it leaves on such a high, the next season needs to almost match that. And of course, then it keeps building and the pressure builds and builds and builds. I also did notice quite a big difference when the show shifted from being 8 weeks to 12 and 14 weeks. For me, that was a concern already. I enjoyed it when there was 8 weeks. You were in, you're doing the hard work, and you're out. So I think, like anything, when it builds and builds, you know, expectations builds, and that's within, you know, the situation and from the audience as well. I mean, they expect, you know, a fantastic show every week from the beginning.
Yeah, of course they do. The BBC Director General, Tim Davie, this week has apologised to anyone that has been affected and that didn't have a wholly positive experience. They've also mentioned the introduction of chaperones. What do you make of that? What are your thoughts on having the chaperones in the rehearsal room?
Well, I think in light of what has, you know, been discussed now, I think it's probably necessary. There needs to be some new steps taken. I couldn't imagine that to have been necessary in the time that I was there, because literally everything we did was recorded. So if something happened in the rehearsals room, the producers would be on the phone 2 minutes later going, has such and such just fallen over? we're coming to talk to you. So it just, what I'm reading now seems like such a different experience. And obviously, like any company, you got to grow with the situation. You got to put, different things in play when you hear things like what's coming to light now.
Yeah, exactly. I remember even Sophie Ellis-Bextor writing in her book about how, as much as it was intense for her, it was also intense for her family at home, because you're away from home for long hours. You've got these new friendships in a different world. It's like there needs to be support for everyone involved.
Totally. I think what was really important to me on the first day of rehearsals was to always check in with my partners and ask them, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a wife? Do you want to bring them to rehearsals so they can see what happens here, so I can talk to them? Because really, I knew that if I was going to get the best out of this celebrity partner, also their spouses and girlfriends had to be happy. So I think it's all about how you manage the situation. And obviously, at the time I was on the show, I had taught for many, many years before that. So I kind of knew how to deal with that situation as well.
And do you feel a bit protective of the pro dancers this morning, Camilla? I mean, how do you feel they'll be feeling going into the new series?
I feel very protective, a bit like Mama Bear, actually, over the professional dancers, because obviously some of them are dear friends and colleagues even, from the past. And I really adore them, and I know how hard they work. To produce what we see every Saturday is so much work. And honestly, sometimes as a professional dancer, you're part therapist, part motivational speaker, and part teacher. So there's a lot going on when you have to, really get somebody ready to go out there and perform as a beginner in front of 11 million people. You are really the person that they're leaning on. And so I feel for a lot of my fellow pro dancers right now, and I'm sending them lots of love for this series ahead.
And did you think that a lot of the time it was all about the celebrity, so possibly the pro dancer voice isn't heard strongly enough?
I hope that all of the conversations that are, being opened up to now, I hope that it will be equally listened to, whatever a professional would say or a celebrity. There has to be support for both, obviously. It can't just be one side.
Yeah. Well, I think with all of these changes, Camilla, they need to bring you back, not necessarily to dance, but in your new role, because you are now a life coach.
Yes. I work with lots of companies and teams here in America. So, yeah, I'll be happy to support them as a consultant in the wellness and mental health area, for sure.
Absolutely. You know what you're talking about. And do you still dance, Camilla?
No. I play pickleball now.
I thought you were going to say a definite yes, Camilla. That's the last thing I thought you'd say. You've picked the glitter ball up. You have done it all at this point, haven't you? So I understand it. You've been there and you've done that. Camilla, thank you very much for your views on all of that. It's so interesting hearing it from the pro dancer perspective, because it's clearly a very intense situation for all of you as well. And like we say, luckily we had fun when we did it. Thanks so much, Camilla.
Yes.
We have a couple of statements, actually. The BBC have released quite a lengthy statement saying the BBC and BBC Studios take duty of care extremely seriously. Our processes on Strictly are kept under constant review. And last week, we announced additional steps to further strengthen welfare and support on the show. We also have a statement on behalf of Giovanni Pernice. It says we are cooperating fully with the BBC's review process. Giovanni refutes any claim of threatening or abusive behaviour, and having provided the BBC with his evidence, is confident that the review will prove this.